Good evening and welcome to the news tonight. I'm Tracy Shilshi and here are the headlines. BSF Jawan killed in ceasefire violation by Pakistani troops at Machil sector along the LOC. Army warns of appropriate strong response after a soldier's body is found mutilated. Kashmiri stage a protest against Hurriyat Conference Chairman Syed Ali Shah Gilani, demand an end to the shutdown of schools in the valley. Delhi police arrests the personal assistant of a Samajwadi Party MP. Suspect was detained in connection with the espionage racket allegedly run by an expelled Pakistan High Commission official. Hillary Clinton's campaign is stunned by the FBI's decision to reopen an investigation into the email scandal. Agency says it has learned of new developments that are relevant to their investigation. And India beat New Zealand by 190 runs to win the ODI match in Visakhapatnam, wrap up the series 3-2. Amit Mishra is declared man of the match and man of the series. First, the personal assistant of Samajwadi Party MP Munawar Salim was arrested on Saturday for his alleged involvement in the espionage racket that was being run by an expelled Pakistani High Commission official. He was hired by the SPMP last year. Meanwhile, diplomats of both India and Pakistan who were expelled on Thursday departed for their respective countries today.
The Delhi police on Saturday arrested Farhat Akhtar, the personal assistant of Rajya Sabha MP Munawar Salim, in connection with the Pakistan espionage ring that was busted on Thursday.
फरहत को हमने अरेस्ट कर लिया और अभी मेडिकल के लिए गया हुआ है, फिर कोशिश करेंगे इन्वेस्टिगेशन में इसका इंट्रोगेशन हो ठीक से. काफी सालों से ये इन्वॉल्व है.
Samajwadi Party MP Salim said he appointed Farhat a year ago. He stated that he will extend all possible cooperation in the probe.
मैंने अभी करीब साल भर पहले उन्हें अपने यहाँ नौकरी पर रखा था और रखने से पहले राज्यसभा सचिवालय से जो वैधानिक कार्रवाई होती हैं जांचें, वो सब कैरेक्टर वेरिफिकेशन पुलिस का सारा उनका कराया गया था. उस वक्त कोई ऐसी बात मेरे सामने नहीं आई थी.
Political leaders expressed shock at the development.
इसी तरह की हरकतों में शामिल हैं कई लोग. जो भी देश के खिलाफ काम करेगा, पुलिस उसके खिलाफ सख्त कार्रवाई करेगी और ऐसी हरकत करने वालों के खिलाफ सख्ती करनी चाहिए और हमारी सरकार सख्ती कर रही है.
यहाँ पर जो लोग मिले हैं उनको पकड़ा गया है, उससे प्रूफ भी मिला है, तो वहाँ पर ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं है, लेकिन जस्ट टू डैमेज द रेपुटेशन ऑफ इंडिया वो लोग काम कर रहे हैं और वो हमेशा करते रहेंगे.
The Delhi police is now also trying to close in on other members of the racket. The suspects were all reportedly in close contact with Pakistan High Commission staffer Mahmood Akhtar. Akhtar was caught with several secret documents on the 26th of October, following which he was expelled. 3 other Indian spies have also been arrested in the case. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And amid increasing tension between India and Pakistan, one more border security force soldier was killed during a cross-border firing in Machil sector of Jammu and Kashmir. Meanwhile, parents of school children took out a protest rally in Srinagar accusing separatists of spoiling the future of the children by forcing the shutdown in the valley.
A border security force Jawan was killed on Saturday in cross-border firing by Pakistani troops in Machil sector along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. BSF Constable Nitin Subhash died after he was accidentally hit by the coil of his gun. Meanwhile, heavy mortar shelling was reported in Kathua and Arispura districts along the international border.
Our boys were retaliating and Nitin Subhash, he was firing one of the long-range weapons. Unfortunately, the round blasted in the chamber itself, giving a recoil, and that recoil hit him in the shoulder.
The fresh casualty came after an Indian soldier was killed and mutilated on Friday. The barbaric incident sparked outrage at his native village in Haryana. Union Minister Jitendra Singh condemned the incident.
These are acts of cowardice and these are acts happening at a time of desperation on the part of the Pakistan army as well as the parts that we in Islamabad. But be that as it may, Indian forces and the parts that we in India are capable of standing up to this challenge. And what is, I think, most reassuring is, as we have observed among the people living in the border areas, that their morale is at a very high level.
So far, 4 Army and 3 BSF personnel have died in the latest escalations along the line of control. Home Minister Rajnath Singh has assured the nation that the security forces are giving befitting reply to Pakistan.
मैं समस्त देशवासियों को आश्वस्त करना चाहता हूं कि हमारे सेना के जवानों, हमारी बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी फोर्स बखूबी उसका जवाब दे रहे हैं और देशवासियों को आश्वस्त रहना चाहिए कि भारत का मस्तक किसी भी सूरत में झुकेगा नहीं.
As the separatists continue to scuttle the efforts to bring normalcy in the Kashmir, residents staged a protest against Hurriyat Conference Chairman Syed Ali Shah Gilani. A large number of parents took out a protest rally in Srinagar against the shutdown of schools in Kashmir Valley. They also demand an end to the ongoing hartal.
ये हम इस बात पे कर रहे हैं कि स्कूल खुलने चाहिए, हमारे बच्चों का मुस्तकबिल बर्बाद हो गया है. स्कूल जलाने से कौन सी आज़ादी हो जाएगी? हड़ताल से क्या हल निकलने वाला है? हड़ताल से कोई हल ही निकलने वाला नहीं है.
Meanwhile, curfew was lifted from 6 police station areas of Srinagar, leading to improvement in movement of people and transport in the city. However, restrictions on assembly of 4 or more people were in place throughout Kashmir. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi questioned the government's resolution to work for soldiers' welfare by asking the Prime Minister to first implement the one rank one pension scheme. In his letter to the PM, Rahul expressed distress at the government's decisions in the last few weeks. He said more concrete steps should be taken to take a message to the soldiers on Diwali, expressing gratitude both in words and in kind. Rahul wrote that ORAP scheme must be implemented in a meaningful way to satisfy the ex-servicemen, and the anomalies in the 7th Pay Commission must be addressed at the earliest. Rahul also said that the rollout of the 7th Pay Commission continues to keep the defence forces at a disadvantage and further exacerbates the disparity between them and civil employees. Now, a day after the Supreme Court slammed the government for delaying judicial appointments, government sources responded by saying that there is no abnormal increase in such vacancies. Instead, the centre said that the Supreme Court should make the appointments in the higher judiciary transparent.
In the wake-up of the strong statement by Chief Justice of India T.S. Thakur over the vacancies of judges not being filled up, the government has insisted that it has increased the sanction strength of High Court judges from 906 to 1,079. It also claims there is no abnormal increase in the vacancies under the NDA rule. News agency PTI, quoting sources, said the average annual rate of appointment of judges in the High Courts has not declined in the last 2 years. But it agrees that no new appointments were made during April-December 2015 due to hearing of NJAC matter. The opposition Congress, however, refuted the claims.
Well, it's a serious situation. The government cannot escape its responsibility and accountability. It's a untenable position that 456 positions of the High Court judges are vacant in the country. Non-finalization or non-agreement on a supplement MOP, Memorandum of Procedure for Appointment of Judges, cannot be an excuse for keeping these positions vacant and denying people access to justice.
बहुत दिन से चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया ठाकुर साहब ने वो कोशिश कर रहे हैं और वो वैकेंसी फिलअप करने लेके गवर्नमेंट को बार बार लिख रहे हैं, लेकिन गवर्नमेंट बार बार रिफ्यूज कर रही, डिले कर रही है.
The sources also said the government was concerned about the increasing pendency in the judicial courts and had increased it to 1,079 in June this year. Congress leaders have warned against prolonging the confrontation with the judiciary.
This is not something which Prime Minister Modi or his ministers want to understand. There is a calibrated attempt to create a confrontation between the institutions. The memorandum of procedure is being used as an instrument of blackmail in order to completely derail the institutional processes of higher justice in this country.
The government sources said an analysis of data for the last 10 years indicates that there has been no abnormal increase in the number of vacancies of judges. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, in the wake of the continuing war of words between Tata Sons and its dismissed chairman Cyrus Mistry, industry experts are calling for a mature response to the crisis. They warn that investors could get more nervous if the issue gets murkier.
Days after the Tatas replaced Cyrus Mistry as the chairman of the Tata Sons Group, media reports said 3 other members, including Chief of Human Resources N.S. Rajan, Business Development Officer Madhu Kannan, and strategist Nirmalya Kumar have quit. Mistry released a statement on Friday claiming that Tatas are justifying his removal by making vague public statements. Media reports also state that current chairman Ratan Tata has set up a team to collect data to help Tata Sons Limited rebut allegations made by ousted chairman Cyrus Mistry. Senior corporate lawyer who is advising the Tata Group, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, warned that investors will become more nervous if the issue gets murkier and hoped the dust will settle over the matter.
This dispute as a daily issue of allegation, counter-allegation, I think the more dirty linen is washed in public, the worse it is for the country, the worse it is for the investors, and I hope and trust that statesmanship will prevail over ego.
Reuters quoted sources stating that Mistry's ouster was triggered by his failure to keep the board informed about Tata's Power's $1.4 billion acquisition of Welspun Renewables Energy back in June. Mistry said in his statement on Friday that the Tata Sons board was informed of the deal. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And here are more updates from across the country and nationwide. President Pranab Mukherjee on Saturday greeted Indians on the eve of Diwali and hoped that the Festival of Lights dispels the darkness of ignorance and illumine people's lives with hope and prosperity. Vice President Hamid Ansari also greeted people on the auspicious occasion. In a message, he said that Deepavali signifies the victory of good over evil and reaffirms our faith in the noble and virtuous life of Lord Ram. Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha has given her left thumb impression instead of a signature in the election document of her party nominee for a November 19th by-poll. Party workers say that she had to use a thumb impression because of an inflamed right hand. As per election rules, candidates should get their forms filled and signed by the head of the party. After absconding for a day, murder-accused Rakesh Ranjan alias Rocky Yadav surrendered in a Bihar court over charges of killing a Class 12 student. The Supreme Court had stayed the Patna High Court order granting him bail in the case. Rocky had allegedly shot dead a Class 12 student, Aditya Sachdeva, for overtaking his car in May 2016. A major fire broke out in a temporary firecrackers market and destroyed over 200 big and small shops on Saturday morning. There were no human casualties as all the shopkeepers and customers managed to escape safely. However, at least a dozen four-wheelers and more than 24 two-wheelers parked in the vicinity were engulfed in the blaze and destroyed. The cause of the fire is still unknown. With that, a quick break here. We'll be back with the international news in a bit.
Down the ages, jewellery has been the pride of the Indian culture. In the Harappan period, it attained perfection in flattened gold bands. From the modern period came the exquisite gold brooches. Many ornaments were an extension of religious practices, like the Gauri Shankaram Rudraksh necklace worn by the temple priest. Rings with lids preserved the taweez that held secret messages and sometimes even poison.
I'm here in this institute now almost 29 years. I grew along with this institute. We are doing world-class research. You can compare our institute with any national institutions and international institutions. We are one of the top among all the R&D institutions in the country and CSR institutions also.
Watch Eureka with Dr. A. Ajay Ghosh, Director, CSIR NEAST, Thiruvananthapuram, only on Rajya Sabha TV.
Welcome back. There's trouble for Hillary Clinton just days ahead of the US presidential polls. The FBI is not through investigating her private email server. Despite clearing her of criminal charges earlier in July, the agency has come across some new emails in an unrelated case. while the Democratic nominee herself called on the FBI to reveal full details of whatever they are investigating. Rival Donald Trump latched onto the opportunity to target Hillary again over the email controversy.
So we don't know the facts, which is why we are calling on the FBI to release all the information that it has. Even Director Comey noted that this new information may not be significant, so let's get it out.
Hillary Clinton calling on the FBI to release full facts about its review of emails related to her personal server, demanding FBI to explain the new inquiry to the American people. This came after Director James Comey revealed that the FBI was looking into newly found messages and reviewing new emails tied to Hillary's server.
At the point here where we're trying to figure out what these emails even pertain to, whether they're relevant to her time as Secretary of State. Can't make any assumptions at this point that they are, but they may be. As much as they are, we'll certainly seek to work with the FBI if they ask us to.
The latest emails came to light during a separate inquiry into top Clinton aide Huma Abedin's estranged husband, former Congressman Anthony Weiner. The FBI is now looking at whether any of the newly discovered emails will have an impact on the investigation into Clinton's server that was closed earlier this year. The FBI has already spent about a year investigating Clinton's use of an unauthorized private email server for her work as the U.S. Secretary of State between 2009 and 2013. Despite lashing Clinton's email practices as extremely careless, FBI director had not recommended prosecution.
Though we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
While Clinton says she was confident that the new emails will not change the conclusion reached in July of not prosecuting her, the Democratic nominee's campaign was shaken by the developments, coming just 11 days before the election. The news also united Republicans, with nominee Donald Trump and other prominent Republicans such as Speaker Paul Ryan jumping on the opportunity to blast Clinton.
Hillary Clinton's corruption is on a scale we have never seen before. We must not let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office.
Hillary Clinton has an advantage over Trump in the presidential race, with polls showing that she is leading by 6 points. The question is now whether the return of the email storm, which has overshadowed her entire campaign, will have an impact on the remaining undecided voters. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now to Iraq, where Shia militias launched an assault to the west of Mosul, opening up a new front in the battle to drive the Islamic State from the country's second city and the group's last major bastion in the country. The Shia militias had not played a heavy part in the fighting so far, but the offensive on Saturday indicates a bigger role than many observers had anticipated. Here's the latest on the battle for Mosul.
Iraqi coalition forces continue to close in on Mosul in an attempt to retake the city from the Islamic State terrorists. The forces pushed into Shura on Saturday, a town southwards of Mosul, after Islamic State fighters fled with civilians using them as human shields. The army said they faced little resistance from the terrorists as they prepared to storm the area, but said US airstrikes disrupted their march.
وراح نباشر الدخول ان شاء الله. لحد الان موظف فقط الهاونات وشيء قليل يعني شيء قليل بس ما تنفع فينا. خط قصف الجو عليهم واحنا راح ندخل.
The coalition forces are advancing from several fronts towards Mosul. On Friday, Peshmerga fighters surrounded the village of Bashika as they prepared to storm the area.
قدمنا من جبل دردك إلى قرى دراويش وجربوع وتقدمنا إلى الآن عبرنا جنوب بعشيقة خلال هذه الجهة تنظمنا بها الدواعش.
Meanwhile, state-sanctioned Shiite militias group Hashid Shabi also joined the battle against the Islamic State. The group launched an assault to the west of Mosul aimed at driving Islamic State from the town of Tel Afrar. The war has raised concerns about the safety of civilians in the area, The United Nations on Friday said the terror group abducted tens of thousands of civilians in and around Mosul. Iraqi forces had launched a massive operation to retake Mosul last week that was captured by Islamic State terrorists in 2014. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected a request by his military to resume air raids over Syria's rebel-held eastern Aleppo. Putin is believed to have said that the pause in fighting was necessary to provide relief to civilians. However, US-backed rebels continued their assault against the Syrian government-held western part of the city. Here's a report.
The fighting between the Syrian government and the rebel groups intensified in Aleppo on Saturday. The warring groups engaged in heavy fighting in the western side of the city. The Syrian government assault was in response to an offensive launched by the rebels.
أبشروا يا أهلنا في حلب بإذن الله هؤلاء الأبطال أبطالكم لن يخذلوكم بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى قاموا ومن صلاة الفجر وانطلقوا إلى الجبهات كي يحرروا حلب بإذن الله ويكسروا الحصار عنك.
On Friday, rebels began the assault, employing heavy shelling and suicide car bombs on the city's western edge. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said more than 15 civilians were killed and 100 wounded by rebel shelling. Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry asked for President Vladimir Putin's permission to resume airstrikes against militants in eastern Aleppo after a 10-day break. The ministry justified its request, citing an upsurge in militant activity and continuing civilian deaths.
Командующему вооруженными силами Российской Федерации разрешить возобновить авиационные удары по незаконным вооруженным формированиям в Восточном Алеппо.
Aleppo, Syria's biggest pre-war city, has been the main battleground of the 5-year-long civil war. The city has been divided for years between the government-held western sector and rebel-held east. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
The foreign ministers of Syria, Russia and Iran met earlier, and also that update and other international stories in Global Buzz now. A three-way meeting between the foreign ministers of Russia, Syria and Iran has resulted in the agreement to intensify the effort in eradicating terrorism in Syria. They met on Friday to discuss the situation in Aleppo, the regional humanitarian crisis and cooperation on anti-terrorism. American Airlines Flight 383, scheduled to fly from Chicago to Miami, caught fire at the Chicago O'Hare International Airport on Friday. 7 passengers and 1 crew member were injured. The accident was reportedly caused by engine-related mechanical problems. Pakistani opposition leader Imran Khan accused the government of placing him under virtual house arrest in Islamabad on Friday. Meanwhile, his supporters in Rawalpindi had an altercation with the police, who fired tear gas and charged the rock-throwing protesters with batons. The protesters also plan to shut down the capital next week to try to force the Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, to resign. Khan urged his supporters to focus on the mass protests on Wednesday. All right, cricket now, and Amit Mishra produced a devastating spell of bowling as India beat New Zealand by 190 runs in the deciding 5th ODI in Vizag to take the series 3-2. Chasing a target of 270, the visitors were bowled out for just 79 runs, with spinner Mishra taking 5 wickets. He was adjudged man of the match for his performance as well as the man of the series for his 15-wicket haul. Earlier, choosing to bat first, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli combined together for a 79-run second-wicket partnership. Sharma was caught for 70, making way for skipper MS Dhoni, who once again promoted himself to number 4. Kohli and Dhoni then combined for a 69-run partnership before the former captain departed for 41. Kohli then went on to complete his 37th half-century as India reached a total of 269 for 6 in their 50 overs. And here are more updates from the world of sports and Sports Beat. India reached the finals of the Asian Champions Trophy after beating South Korea 5-4 in the shootout. In a thrilling encounter, captain and goalkeeper P.R. Srijesh made a brilliant save in the 5th attempt against Deo Lee in the semis. Earlier, the match finished 2-all in the regulation time. India were leading 1-0 in the first quarter, but Korea came back to score 2 goals and take the lead. Then Ramandeep Singh scored the equalizer for India. It will now take on arch rivals Pakistan in the final. Pakistan had defeated Malaysia 3-2 in the second semi-final. Top seed and US Open champion Stan Wawrinka suffered a shock defeat to German qualifier Misha Zverev to bow out of the Swiss indoors event. Wawrinka lost the quarterfinal 6-2, 5-7, 6-1. In the other quarterfinal, third seed Kei Nishikori beat Argentine Juan Martin del Potro to reach the semis. Nishikori won 7-5, 6-4. In the Vienna Open, top seed Andy Murray reached the semi-finals with a straight sets win over American John Isner. Murray will now face Spaniard David Ferrer, who beat Viktor Troicki in a thrilling three-set match. And that's all we have for you on the news tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.